Hello, welcome back to the Subspace Developer Sync, our bi-weekly sync just to catch up on all things developing at Subspace. Um, it has actually been 3 weeks, think, since our last sync, as many of us were in Palo Alto last week for an on-site, so we decided to kind of hold off until after that to do the sync. So, all right, so what do we have? We have well, as I mentioned, we were all in, or not all, but many of us were in Palo Alto last week, and many also joined remotely for that. Yeah, I don't want to give away too much. I know we're going to have some big announcements coming over the next probably week or two. Is that right, Jim?
Yep.
Really, we are. We are going to have some big announcements. It's very exciting stuff we have going. But what I will touch on a couple of highlights coming out of it. One is that we are going to be back or begin catering to a wider range of developers. EVM developers, we're going to be coming after you. Very excited about that. Additionally, we're going to have some other kind of focuses around identity and identity framework that we've mentioned, some that we've been building, and that'll also be developer focused, but it's going to be a much more broad focus as we are approaching sometime in the rather near future mainnet launch, and building out the ecosystem is important. Product has become more focused coming out of this. So many of you know we've been working on this concept of autonomous identity, an autonomous identity framework or auto ID. If you're following the repo, you see some work in there on that. We've been working on an SDK related to that. Coming out of last week, we really refined what that's going to initially look like. So be watching closely over the next few weeks as we start presenting a much more focused auto ID use case. That'll be part of announcements, but I know many of you are watching repos. That will also probably give hint to the direction we're going. So with that, I'll hand over to Jim. What do we have happening in the ecosystem?
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, so just to reiterate Jeremy's points there. So yeah, you can take a look in the repo and see a very raw picture of what we're up to with Auto ID. But that and more, we are working on a kind of a polished marketing-led effort to explain that to a wider community. And yeah, absolutely. So something that that Jeremy just mentioned about us reaching out to a more varied group of developers. If you're out there watching this and you're interested in developing alongside us, if you're an EVM developer or you are someone who is interested in like an identity framework for your application, please do get in touch. We're going to have incentives and grants available, and that's something that Emil and I are working on. And on that subject, Emil and Ryan from Ecosystem will be attending Consensus. Actually, Jeremy, you're going to be going as well.
And I will be, yes.
We're going to have a reasonably large contingent there. So if you want to get into a conversation with us, if you're attending and you just want to say hello, reach out to any of us, and we'd love to start that dialogue. Yeah, and we came away from the on-site. It was a great, it was actually not an off-site, it was on-site in our office in Palo Alto. And we've come away with a real kind of focus and plan of next steps, execution. I know you've heard it before, the beloved community, but yeah, we have got big announcements coming just around the corner. Okay, some set pieces then. So Gemini 3.8 update. We broke through 140 petabytes last week. As I pointed that out in our internal Slack. Today, I checked this morning, we're currently hovering about 130 petabytes, but that is normal for the weekend. There is this kind of a drop off over the weekend that we see regularly, and we have seen an increase in the number of nodes recently. We actually saw it contract for a while. We kind of hit 9,000 or about 9,500 relatively quickly on 3H, and it contracted a bit. I think that part of that is that Many farmers are kind of connecting their multiple farmers to a single node, but we had kind of plateaued around the 8 to 8,500 nodes. But in the last couple of weeks, we've seen that grow. It's kind of fluctuating between 8.5 and 9,000 nodes, and we know that the Galaxy Verified Farmer campaign is creating some extra noise for the community in Discord, particularly. We are tweaking it as we go along. We share the pain, but we do want more eyes on the project as we approach mainnet. And on that note, of course, I just wanted to drop a reminder in here in this forum that Gemini 3H is an incentivized testnet. So tokens that you earn on the testnet on 3H will grab you a portion of a very generous reward pool that's actually continuously growing at a rate of 0.1% of token supply. So still worthwhile jumping in and earning some tokens. Moving on to hot topics within the community. Again, I'm pleased to report that we don't have any big issues causing farmers grief. That we see some kind of outliers and people who have got problems specific to their environment. Farming cluster does remain the big news. Shout out to Vexa, who has been providing feedback, great feedback in the forum and in Discord. I think Nazar's going to provide a bigger update on farming cluster in a little further down the agenda. Personally, I've seen some reports of high memory usage. I just checked and I don't seem to be experiencing it on Space Acres, or maybe I'm not running it in the same way that others are. And personally, I've also noticed that Space Acres it doesn't shut down immediately, which is a problem we had previously. I'm going to raise an issue for that. That's on my list. But yeah, if you are experiencing an issue, please do reach out in Discord or on the forum. We like logs as text, please, rather than screenshots. And finally, yeah, so something interesting that's happened today. We've been approached by the Universal Substrate Faucet creators. They got a grant from Polkadot to have like a consolidated faucet that allows you to request tokens from substrate-based chains, of which we are one, of course. And I'm currently working with them to get listed on there. So we're going to give them some Nova EVM tokens, where it's another channel you'll be able to request, in addition to our own Discord and website-based faucets, of course. Again, if you want to, if you're an EVM or Solidity developer, and that you're interested in running your applications on Subspace, it's possible to do that right now. We have docs, and if you're struggling to find any information, please do reach out to me direct. That's everything from ecosystem today. Thanks, Jeremy.
Great. All right. Well, why don't we just jump right into kind of project highlights and progress that's being made. Daria, you mind kind of giving a quick protocol update before we move into some of the other issues?
No, sure. Given everything that's said previously, there's been a lot of focus and will be coming a lot of focus on product, but it doesn't mean that we stopped working on the protocol. We actually, brushing it up behind the scenes. The thing you may have not seen any big updates lately because, well, we finished most of the big things planned for now. The consensus has been running pretty great so far with the proof of space and the farming. Proof of time has not given anybody any problems for a while. I think the last hiccup was when we tried to launch Gemini 3H with just the seed, and that's never heard about it after. Most of the stuff that is happening in development is either user experience, which Nazar and Shmuel are diligently working on with developing fast sync, developing better fixing memory bugs, better interfaces for bigger and smaller farmers. That is kind of a little bit orthogonal to product to protocol. the biggest protocol development is still happening around domains or execution framework, which includes most effort almost wrapped up around fraud proofs and various, EVM and execution bugs and things to be needed better, things that need to be benchmarked, some improvements to domain configurations, to operator configurations to make things more intuitive, and of course, fixing various audit issues that our auditors report, which you could always see, or on our GitHub. It's all open. There are audit tags that need to audit tags on pull requests, so you can follow that along. So everything's coming together pretty fine here. And coming into that, another thing that's been in development for a while was our collaboration with Block Science on the economy or network. Some people here at tokenomics, they think first mostly that it's like a pie chart of allocations from like farmers, investors, and the team. That's not that part. That part is also in the working and is going to be released closer to mainnet, because the incentivized testnet is still ongoing, so the allocations are still being grown for the testnet. But what we have been working on was actually the issuance per block for block proposers, for voters, for how it should decline, how long it should go for, or what is the shape of it, what are the economic implications of it. And we have developed with Block Science model that is also can be found on their GitHub. It's Block Science / Subspace. That is kind of like an economic simulator of our network. It's written mostly in Python, and it's kind of nice to click around if you're really into that. They have held a workshop recently with us to explain to everybody how this model can be run. They have a pretty good README on that repo and a lot of documents. We will be writing more of like a blog post and a more distillized version of all of this here soon, and sharing all of that. They have run like 300,000 simulations over 3 years of all the different scenarios that our network could go. The latest development is like I have chosen, I think, 9 different parameter combinations out of all of that nearly infinite space. And so we're carefully considering those very precise points with finance to actually make the final decisions for the best of our network. So, yep, working a lot.
Great, and we'll be hosting that workshop at some point soon, I believe, right? That we did with Block Science.
Yeah, so the plan is to write kind of like also some accompanying documentation to that is more approachable by community and people who have not been really involved in the development, and it's going to take us a little bit.
Okay. Great. All right, well, one of the big things I know you mentioned, Daria, from the protocol update, that's really one of the kind of final pieces remaining before we can go to mainnet beta is getting our fraud proof system in place and tested on our decoupled execution framework. So Ning, you want to give us an update where we're at with that?
Yeah, sure. Recently, we had finished our implementation for the stated fraud proofs, which is different from our previous version of fraud proof that we already had in Gemini SGH. That in the pure version of fraud proof, that the fraud proof contains some of the data or state necessary from the domain chains. But for some data and some other state, like property that are required from the consent node, that the fraud proof did not carry this data. And instead, when the fraud proof verifier, namely the consent node, the farmer need to maintain all this data. He need to maintain some of the MMR data, some of the old states of the chains, so he can verify the fraud pools. And if he, like, did not maintain this data, he will fail to input the browse, so he cannot fully sync. And which also be one of the broker for another incoming feature called fast syncs. So in the state fraud pools, the fraud pool will contain will be self-contained. It will contain all the necessary data that's required during the verifications, and which including some of the MMR pools and some of or multiple storage pools for different data, different concentration states that are required during the verifications. So with the state fraud pools, any consent node can verifying that fraud pool and without requiring some of the old state or some of the blockage, some of the training histories. And also alongside with working on the state fraud pool, we also had from some of the actually two fraud pool are actually unnecessary. The invalid SDM fraud pool and the bundle equivocation fraud pool, they are not really necessary, so we had remove them and without sacrifice our securities. Yeah, and it's always great to delete some of the code while still get everything working. Yeah, meanwhile we are on the overall for the fraud system, we are still there are some PR under reviewing and also starting some of the testing with our Marisa operators. Yeah.
Great. We love removing code. So it's great getting rid of a couple of the fraud proofs. So, great. What do we have next? Farming cluster. This has been a big one. Nazar's been working on recently that I know the community is pretty excited about. So, want to give us an update where we are?
Sure. So for background, there is a topic on the forum, and there is also corresponding GitHub issue called Farming Cluster. And the idea there is to basically help larger farmers or farmers who have several machines on local network to farm more efficiently. The idea is that farmer is doing several different things that do not necessarily have to happen on the same machine or in the same process. And we can split them into 4 distinct roles. One role is controller, which connects to the distributed storage network and to the node, and acts like a gateway of sorts. Then there is separate plotter, which can be running on any machine. There is a farmer, which maintains the farm and can request plotter to plot something, and there is a cache instance also separate. So the idea is that you can have multiple machines running some of these roles, and they can all talk to each other as a single kind of big application that is distributed. So, for example, if you have several machines on local network and they have some slack capacity, but only one of them has like large CPU or GPU for plotting, you can run plotter on one machine and you can have a few small farmers connected to it. And you can still utilize all of the space without running multiple farmers, each with their own dedicated plotter and own dedicated cache and own dedicated node and peer-to-peer connections. Like, it simplifies things a lot. But on the other end of the spectrum, for large farmers, what they can do, they can run multiple controllers with multiple cache instances, with multiple plotters, and so on, and multiple nodes, and they can have fault tolerance and high availability as a result of this. Because if one node or one controller goes down, the rest of them can still function normally. So the idea is to basically solve some of those problems on more fundamental level. It doesn't mean that anything changes for regular farmers. Everything, it will work the way it was before. It's just a new additional ability for those who need it, and those who kind of will benefit from it. And the general kind of thinking process there is there will be farming pools attempting to capture attention of our farmers, and the more things we can build for farmers to be independent and farming successfully, the more pointless it will be to join a farming pool. So, for example, if we have a good farmer experience that both small and large farmers can do everything on their own, they will not have to share the reward with the farming pool. They will not have to join a more centralized solution. They will be able to remain decentralized, and that's kind of the goal of the protocol.
Where are we in the kind of like release cycle of this?
Right. There were test builds of different levels of quality of the farming cluster for a while. There is a pull request open that we are reviewing right now. I think maybe in a week we may be able to land it. The initial version will have kind of basic functionality working, but there will be upcoming releases with metrics added and other things that are like more secondary. But the core functionality should be available maybe within a week. But before that, you can always go to the forum and see the latest build that is test built and docs there. And we are also working on official documentation in the meantime on the doc Subspace network.
Great. All right. Finally, Mark, I know you just rolled in red-eyed from San Francisco. I think you stayed over the weekend after our on-site. So
Yes.
thank you for just jumping in here to give an update basically right off the plane. So where are we at? You mentioned last time we had a dev sync, there's this verified farming role. I don't think it was merged yet at that point. Where are we?
Exact. So that got merged about over a week ago. So multiple Discord users verified and gained the verified farmer role. On last Friday, we add more explanation. So link to the farming documentation directly on the wallet sidekick to make it more easier. This will probably get merged today or tomorrow to production. It's in staging. We also have in the pipeline similar roles for verified nominator, verified operators. We're still working the details. And as well, stake war page on Astral is going to make it to production likely today or tomorrow.
Amazing. So people will be able to check their stake wars rewards from Gemini 3G. Is that...
Exact.
Okay. I know that's been a big ask that people have been asking for, and it was not as straightforward as you might think. So great work getting that done.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we've made it through the agenda. Unless anybody has anything they'd like to add, I think we can call it a day. All right. We will see you all, actually, I think probably next week. So talk to you then.